Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You know what we do, folks. It is IE Vegas. IE Vegas, where we focus on Vegas sports. We talk about Vegas sports. We love on Vegas sports because it is the fastest growing sports market in America. And there's no way you can detract me from that statement. We've been saying it here first since the inception of the show 44 episodes ago. This sports market is going crazy. Soon enough, we will have an MLB team. There's already an NHL team. There's an NFL team, depending on when they want to show up and play and their owner doesn't crap their pants. There's also men's volleyball, women's volleyball. I mean, we got UNLV. On top of that, I mean, you got the WNBA. There's something going on at all times. The NHL. There's something going on at all times in Vegas. Not just the Strip. Not all those beautiful shows that draw us there to get an escape from our daily lives. No. Not just that. There is sports in Las Vegas, and it is kicking ass, taking names. There's 2 titles this year alone. I should say last year alone, hoping for more titles this season, this year. And, we're going to keep rolling, folks. We're going to keep rolling here at IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again. Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on Spreaker Radio. Folks, got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to touch base on the Golden Knights. We have UNLV. Basketball still underway. Women's UNLV is absolutely kicking ass, taking names. They're not slowing down. I think they still only have 2 losses on the season. They're absolutely creaming everybody. And there's no reason why, if they win the Mountain West, they shouldn't get a good seed in the tournament. Really, they're kicking butt. They're doing what they have to do. New era in Raider Nation. You guys all know we're going to touch base on Derek Carr. He was released today. Something that we have been saying for months on the show, right? Months on the show, months on our Twitter feed. A lot of haters out there trying to tell us that they know more than we do. We had a pulse on it the entire time, folks. And I hate to say it, but Mike Florio from NBC Sports Network, I think it's CBS now, Sky Sports, he was on the same page. And I hate being right with Mike Florio because the guy is a dingus, but let's be real. We were spot on the entire time. We knew exactly what was going to happen with the Derek Carr situation. We were far ahead of all the Raider Nation, all the haters out there that were trying to say that we didn't know what we were talking about. We just knew, man. So what's next? We're also going to talk about that when we get back here from the break here on IE Sports Radio. Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We're back, folks. Thank you again for tuning in to a Tuesday evening edition of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You guys can catch us every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I apologize for my absence last week. Power was out. As a matter of fact, you guys wouldn't believe this. Our transformers, 2 of them in our alleyways behind our homes, caught fire, and we didn't have power for at least a day. It was ridiculous. I've never seen that happen before. It's uncanny. You just don't see it happen, and it's a major utility. So they had workers night and day, basically. In Nebraska, it gets dark at like 6 p.m. I go home early around 3 p.m. to take care of the situation. It was crazy, man. Absolutely nuts. That's why we missed last week's episode. Very sorry about that, but we are back, and we have news to talk about today. That's one thing that I love about it. The off season is basically here, and we got things to talk about. But before we get into that, we have to talk about our platform, IE Sports Radio. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon tiers link. Patreon link with 5 different tiers. Just the one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shoutouts on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show hosted by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Larry B. in the defining moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. Current events. Unfortunately, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl last night, or a couple days ago. Very unfortunate news. Listen, folks, even though we picked them to be third in the division because we were overly optimistic about what we thought the Raiders and Chargers were going to be able to do, we had been saying that whole offseason that the scariest thing that could happen to the NFL is if the Kansas City Chiefs figure out they can run the football and do it efficiently behind that big, nasty offensive line. Folks can say whatever they want about Orlando Brown. Folks can say whatever they want about that offensive line. It was a top 5 unit all year long, and the guy who deserves the most credit for everything is Creed Humphrey. Creed Humphreys is a second-year center. He was one of the guys, if you guys looked at our mock draft for, last year in 2022, I guess. If you guys looked at our mock draft, you would have seen that I picked Creed Humphreys in almost every single draft because, in my opinion, I thought he was going to be like one of the best centers next to Tyler Lindenbaugh. He was going to be one of the best centers in the league, right? Sorry, not last year, maybe the year before. Regardless, Kansas City lands this dude, and he's doing work immediately. He was nearly an All-Pro last year as a rookie. He was certainly an All-Pro this year. Jason Kelce, then him. And honestly, there's a separation between every other center in the league. Creed Humphreys is that dude. And he kept Patrick Mahomes, for the most part, clean all year long. This top 5 offensive line, especially with the influence of Eric Bieniemy, because people can say whatever they want about Eric Bieniemy, he has convinced and shown Andy Reid, ever since he showed up, the Kansas City Chiefs run the ball well. They do. In Philly, Andy Reid struggled to run the ball. He's so great in the passing game, and he's a legendary offensive coordinator with the way he calls plays. But one thing Eric Bieniemy has done a great job of is showing Andy Reid how to run the football in a creative way that is effective and sets up play action. Because I don't know how the Eagles didn't do it. They just didn't cover Travis Kelce. I don't get it. And when they did start to cover Travis Kelce, they, for whatever reason, forgot how to cover Juju Smith-Schuster. Props to him for sending shade that Valentine's Day card to James Bradbury. That was messed up. Low class, but also hilarious at the same time. That was an amazing Valentine's Day card graphic that he set up. That was legit. Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs were what they were, man. Mahomes was Mahomes. He was he's the MVP for the second year in a row. He's Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, this team was damn near unstoppable most of the season. The Eagles were the team I thought were honestly the best equipped to beat them this year, other than the Bengals, right? A healthy Eagles team we thought was going to be dangerous, and honestly they were. If we're being real here, short of that fumble, Jalen Hurts had a perfect game. He was an amazing football player. The amount of third and longs that he converted in the air and with his legs was absolutely incredible. Jalen Hurts is the future of the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. I was a big fan of him in the offseason. If you all remember, very clearly, I stated before the season started, the Eagles were going to be a team that nobody would want to mess with. I was one of the few teams at IE Sports Radio to pick the Eagles to be in the Super Bowl because I thought that their offense and defensive lines were going to be so good it wouldn't even matter. And then all of a sudden we get to the draft and A.J. Brown is essentially traded for. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. They were able to run the ball last year efficiently. Imagine what they'll do now with this offensive line returning, getting healthy. I mean, the Eagles were absolutely monstrosity. Jalen Hurts is about to get paid. But I'll say it like this. If it wasn't for that fumble recovery for a touchdown, the Eagles probably win this football game. And besides that, Jalen Hurts was an absolute legend. If he doesn't have that fumble, the dude's responsible for 5 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts was an absolute monster the other day. And he doesn't get enough credit. He really doesn't. Because of that fumble. It is what it is, man. It's the reality. It held the team back. Also, why is nobody talking about how bad the Eagles played on defense? Horrible. Yes, 7 points wasn't their fault. But guess what? You allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to score 28 other points. the top defensive unit, a defensive line that bragged record numbers, was talking crap for 2 weeks before the Super Bowl happened. Not a single sack. Those guys took it, man, and they left with their tail between their legs. That defensive line is a lot to answer for, man, because they were a strength to that Eagles team, and they completely were non-existent when it mattered most. I don't know what the defensive coordinator was doing, calling so much man, by the way, against the Chiefs team. It's absolutely insane to me. You had so many opportunities, especially in the red zone, to at least stick to like a cover 2 type principle where the corners are kind of in the flat. And honestly, when you're in the red zone, the flat is essentially the entire red zone at that point in the NFL because these corners cover a lot of ground. I have no idea why that defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach, I think, of the Arizona Cardinals, was calling so much damn man in the red zone because it screwed them in 2 possessions. All the Chiefs had to do was run a little bit of a motion and then just, I don't know, kick right back or do a bubble right back to where they were and they were wide open because Darius Slay or James Bradbury way over pursued. They were so worried about getting beat in that man coverage that they they overcompensated and it left Chiefs players wide open. Sky Moore, I think it was, or was it Jarrett McKinnon? Either way, Sky Moore, I think, was one of them, yes. Jarrett McKinnon, I think, was the other one. Regardless, these guys were wide open because of a man scheme that just was not working. And it's obvious the Eagles didn't do as much studying as far as film is concerned because the only time the Chiefs get beat is when someone is, 1, being physical with their receivers off the line of scrimmage, and 2, playing a very tight zone and allowing 4 guys to rush and corral Mahomes. That's it. That's the only time the Chiefs get beat. And the Eagles just refuse to do that. I don't get their game plan. It is what it is. It's just part of the way the NFL is. But props to the Chiefs. That offensive line absolutely road graded that defensive line of the Eagles. And, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are what we thought they were, you know. We may have picked them to be 3rd in our division. That was a bad call by me. I totally admit that. But I did say the entire offseason, the scariest thing that could happen is they figure out how to run the football now that Tyreek Hill's gone. Look what happened. They were arguably better this year than what they were with Tyreek Hill. And you're going to have a hard time convincing me otherwise. And that's scary. That's scary because the Raiders have to play against them with Josh McDaniels as our head coach. That guy who's 17-28 as a head coach. We have to. Yeah, it's not getting any better, guys. It sucks. It's horrible. I don't know. We'll touch base on that. We're going to go to break. Got to give a shout out to all those folks listening. Usually it's Taryn. Usually it's Larry B. You guys are awesome. As always, I'm going to play your guys' drops because of it. When we get back, we're going to dive right into UNLV basketball and touch on Golden Knights before we talk about the Las Vegas Raiders here on Sin City Sports, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Set, hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA to the grand slams of the MLB to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college in the CCCAA and in the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sin City Sports. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Welcome back, IE Vegas. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You guys know what we do every Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We speak about the Vegas sports, the fastest growing sports market in America. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. You guys can get at us on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR. At Cale_Henderson is my personal, where I love to talk to all of the haters, because that seems to be all I have on my timelines, guys. If I give an opinion, man, listen, I'm not an expert. I'll say it like this. And we said that on our Twitter forum, by the way. We are by no means an expert, but it's obvious that we know a hell of a lot more than a lot of the content creators out there that have followers. It's absolutely ridiculous, the amount of crap and vitriol that we received for just saying that Derek Carr would likely make a business decision. Guys, this is a business. You can't be mad when it doesn't benefit you, and then be happy when it benefits. It's not. You can't have both ways. It's not the way the world works. Okay. The Raiders did what they thought was good for business. Derek Carr did what he thought was good for business. It is what it is, man. It absolutely is what it is. And it's just it's part of the nature. It's part of the business, man. It's part of the sports business, okay? And we'll touch base on that. We'll get into it a little bit more. We'll talk about the Raider Nation, how they probably need to chill a little bit, because now they're going to have to focus somewhere else. We're going to touch base on UNLV women's basketball. UNLV women's basketball has been absolutely destroying the competition all year long. They're 24-2, number one in the Mountain West. They're beating teams by double digits on a consistent basis. This is a nasty basketball team. These women do not care. They're finally ranked. Last time we had a show 2 weeks ago, they had only had 2 losses. I think they were 20-2 and they weren't ranked. Now all of a sudden they're 23. Granted, women's basketball is usually really top heavy in the ACC and top heavy in the SEC, but they should have been treated. They should have been given a little bit more respect. They will be a team that, as long as they continue to win games, and there's really only 4 games left, if they go 4-0, they win these last 4 games, they have to be looking at a number 1 seed. I'd be shocked if they're not. 24-2. At this point, 4 more games, they'd be 28-2 out of a 30-game season. And they're likely going to be Mountain West champs. Because the only team that's really put up a fight this year has been Fresno State, and they're not that good. They're really not. It's absolutely incredible. I can't believe how well that these UNLV women have played. Their only 2 losses this season. For God's sakes, I mean, they scored 100 points against Oral Roberts. Yes, the Fighting Toothpaste, I'm just kidding. They beat them 100-84. Like, they scored 100 points in a women's game, dude. What? The only teams that they've lost to this season were Oklahoma State, Big 12 team. I get it. It's like that sometimes. And Pacific. That one was a weird one. I think there were some injuries going on there. I'm not quite certain why that happened, but I do believe there were injuries that game. Regardless, the UNLV women's basketball team has been absolutely killing it. Winning by double digits on a consistent basis. They're positive in the turnover differential. I mean, they're absolutely killing it. And UNLV men's 16-9. They currently have a game going on. They're not as entertaining by any means. You know, I'm not trying to be mean, but it is what it is. The women's basketball team's killing it. Men's barely hanging on against San Jose State. They're trailing 15-14 in the first half. Just started, basically. Rebels are 6-9. The men's Rebels team in the Mountain West are currently, they're currently ranked 8th. Woo! Thanks, men's Rebels team. Golden Knights. Golden Knights are still killing it. Still one of the top teams in the West. They've been on a bit of a run lately, which is great. They were behind the Kraken at the All-Star break, and we had said 2 weeks ago, watch out for this team, because if they get hot, you don't want to mess with them. They've won 3 straight. They're now top of the Pacific Division once again. They were 3rd 2 weeks ago. They're now atop by 3 points. Golden Knights are what we thought they were. I think that they had to rest, man, and I also think during the All-Star break, some of those players take a bit of an extended break because they know they're about to be on the ice for the All-Star games. I could be wrong, but in a lot of cases, I believe that happens. Golden Knights are top, 68 points. Dallas Stars are top of the Western Conference in general at 70 points. The Eastern Conference is absolutely being run away with the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes have 83 points and 78 points respectively. just to give you guys an idea of what the Boston Bruins are doing right now, and I'm pretty sure they're on pace for a record in the NHL. They are 39-8-5 right now. You guys heard me say that, correct? 39-8-5. They've played 52 games. What? The Boston Bruins are absolutely nasty. I would love to see a Bruins-Knights matchup for the Stanley Cup, and it's still possible. Absolutely possible. We'd love to see that happen. We'd always love to see that happen, right? Golden Knights are a team to reckon with, man. We said this last year. They were 4th place, and they half of their team was injured, dude. We got to respect it. Got to respect it. Current events, Vegas current events, I should say. We got to come up with a good tagline for that. Larry and I are going to get together because he's listening. Raiders, you guys already know we're going to talk about that. Touching base real quick. It's a new era in Raider Nation. Here's why. Because for the first time in now 10 years, Derek Carr will not be under center. They will have a new signal caller in Raider Nation. Now, there's 2 things to that. You guys have heard it here first. I am a Derek Carr supporter, okay? I don't give him a ton of excuses. I do believe he needs to play better in a lot of cases. Sometimes he's not consistent. That's the thing. There are times where we get nothing but wow plays from Derek Carr. When he's on, there's probably nobody better with the exception of Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. When he's on, there's nobody better in this league. But he's not consistent, and it's a problem. I don't blame the Raiders' woes and the losses over the last 9 years directly on him. There's just no way. If there was a list of 5 reasons as to why Derek Carr is not a winner, Derek Carr would be number 5. And then we could talk about the organization, the roster structure, the horrible defense, all that other crap. The guy he's been nothing but a consummate professional, so I want to say it like this. Happy trails, man. We wish you nothing but the best. He did nothing but lead the Raiders all time, passing yards, touchdowns, wins. The guy is an incredible player for us. It's just unfortunate we couldn't put it together with him. I get it. He wasn't a top 5 quarterback. He wasn't elite. But he was more than good enough to put a team around him and make it to the Super Bowl at least, right? And compete. And the Raiders just squandered. So let's go over that, right? Again, happy trails to Derek Carr. I have no problems with that. Raider Nation, y'all need to chill, man. Just say goodbye. Give him the man his respect. He did nothing to you. Never once did he attack Raider Nation, okay? Never once. He did nothing but show up and be a consummate pro his entire career. Wins, losses, injuries, all the BS, the coaching changes, regime changes. Derek Carr did nothing but handle his stuff with class. We need to do the same as fans. Thank him for his services here. Yes, they weren't exactly what we wanted them to be, but I promise you, it wasn't going to get much better, and I don't think many people could have done much better than Derek Carr over the last 9 years with what we've had to work with. And let's be honest about that. Okay? Let's be really honest about that. I don't think many other quarterbacks would have wanted to stay. They would have asked for a trade year 4 with all the crap that he had to deal with. So let's be real. We have to give credit where credit's due. The hate, the half Derek Carr, half Hitler posts or pictures on Twitter, it's all uncalled for. It's all ridiculous. It's all low class. But honestly, at times I expect nothing but Raider Nation because we have some absolute trash cans in our fan base. I'll say it. I have no problem saying it. Raider Nation has some absolute trash cans. Makes us all look bad. Like Kansas City fans are horrible. They're arrogant. They're incestual. But we're just horrible to each other, man. We're so bad. And it doesn't end. If you have a different opinion, you're just immediately wrong. You got a guy on Twitter threatening to stab you or calling you an idiot or telling you don't know what you're talking about. Raider Nation has to be better. And we have to be better towards this guy. So here's what happened. We've been talking about it since Derek Carr was benched. We knew here on Sin City Sports, because we've been posting it nonstop, and if you guys were following Sin City Sports, you would have had the right idea, the right perspective, because there's a lot of content creators out there that were wishing, hoping, crossing their toes, crossing their fingers, and tying you know what in a knot, just to get what they thought was going to happen with Derek Carr. We've been saying it from the very beginning. Since he was benched before Week 17, we've been telling you here first, he will not be traded. We knew that. There was a hope. We've been saying that if he was traded, they could likely get a first for it. But as soon as they benched Derek Carr, that went out the window. As soon as this Raiders brass, who has handled things in the most horrendous fashion, by the way, including today's leaks of articles and critiques and all that stuff saying that the guy's horrible in the pocket and he isn't tough enough to win cold games. Yes, the Raiders, the Raider Nation, the Raider facility, people there, personnel released that stuff about him after cutting him because they're salty. Let's be real. The Raiders in their mind made a business decision to bench Derek Carr because they were worried that if he got hurt in the last two games against a really good defensive front in San Francisco, right, and the Kansas City Chiefs, also a really good front, that they would have to owe him $40.4 million. Back it up even further. He signed a new contract this year with $25 million guaranteed up front on signing. $25 million. For the idiot on Twitter that was arguing with me about it. $25 million was guaranteed at signing. And I'm talking about Prince Nazo, F Tribe, whatever his name is. And that Joker in an astronaut suit, Fady McGrady. You know what that guy does in his free time. He had a contract where he received $65 million guaranteed over 3 years. $25 million up front. If he was still on the roster today or injured, Derek Carr would have been owed $40.4 million of that guaranteed money over the next 2 years. And then the Raiders would have been in a much worse situation because they would have had to find a trade partner. Unlikely, because everybody in the league knew as soon as he was benched that the Raiders no longer wanted him. So they lost all leverage. They had to release Derek Carr today. What a blunder by this staff. I get that they thought they were doing what they thought was best for business, but guess what? You screwed yourself out of a bunch of assets. And all you're probably going to get is maybe a third-round compensatory pick next year. Not this year, next year. They handled it horribly. The roster construction this year, I mean, let's be honest, the defense was absolute garbage. The offensive line was crap. Nobody was winning with this. And now they're kind of coming out and admitting that they weren't trying to win this year. Great. So what were you doing? Just wasting a year of prime talent from Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Colton Miller, Max Crosby, Derek Carr? Like, what were you trying to do, man? Just waste prime years? A prime year? It's a big deal, man. In the NFL, that's a huge deal. 1 year is the difference between somebody being in their prime at the top and leaving their prime. This staff did an absolutely horrific job. It starts with Mark Davis. It's absolutely incredibly horrible the way they handled this situation. But they thought they did what was best for business. Turnabout's fair play. Because Derek Carr, who was not granted permission to seek a trade or visit with teams until this last week, said, no, I'm not going to help you guys out. Why would I help you guys out? Why would I accept a trade and cost my new team draft picks? And if anybody who's actually paying attention to the quarterback market the last few years, you know that Derek Carr is going to get more than $40.4 million in guaranteed money from the new team. Whether it's the Jets, the Saints, the Carolina Panthers, those are probably the top three. I could totally see the Niners swinging in. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. He's in a great position. He's going to have 4 or 5 teams bidding on him. Because in my opinion, I think Aaron Rodgers either ends up a Raider or he stays a Packer. Truly. Unless he just can't turn down the Jets. Because the Jets are a loaded football team. And if the Jets are willing to give up 2 first-round picks for him, they're probably a Super Bowl contender next year, to be honest. The Jets are that stacked. They have a offensive line full of first-rounders. Garrett Wilson was basically an offensive rookie of the year last year. You have a defensive rookie of the year candidate in Sauce Gardner, right? That defensive line is stacked. Absolutely stacked. You have Mosley, Dunlap, all them boys, right? This team is absolutely stacked. Two really good running backs, by the way. Like this Jets team is unreal. I wouldn't blame Derek Carr for saying yes right away. With all the cold weather crap, I don't know if he'd want to deal with that because you could contend elsewhere. Plus, the AFC East is just an absolute gauntlet right now, and that's the reality. If I'm Derek Carr, I'm going somewhere where the division is not a gauntlet. There are a lot of teams that are going to line up for him. So he knows he was going to get $40.4 million or more than that in his next contract. This is my prediction, okay? I think it'll be 4 years, $100 million with like 70 guaranteed or 72 guaranteed. Basically guaranteeing 3 years. Because he's only 31 and he's got at least 3 years. And with that kind of a contract at $25 million a year, it's an absolute bargain for a team to build around with today's salary cap and draft picks. I totally see that happening. It's probably going to be higher, but if Derek Carr's smart and he looks at the landscape and he sees, listen, Kansas City had a first this year. They were the first team to win a Super Bowl when their quarterback accounts for 17% or more of the cap. Derek Carr does not want to be that guy, man. Don't do it. If you go to the Saints, you have weapons everywhere. Alvin Kamara, Mike Thomas, Chris Olave. You have an offensive line that they've essentially rebuilt. They have picks in every single round. Like, take less, man. Go get a win. You've made almost $200 million in your career. Just take less. Go get that win. Go get that W. Prove everybody wrong. That's just me, the fan, saying, hey, do the right thing for you. But obviously, if he can chase the money, man, do it, I just don't think that's going to be better for the team. So whichever team talks to him, I hope Derek Carr does the same thing he did for the Raiders. I hope he doesn't let the Raiders completely spurn him in the rest of his career. I hope he takes a team-friendly deal and allows that team to really build around him. Because the Raiders obviously didn't do a good enough job for 9 years. Let's be honest. So happy trails with Derek Carr, man. He made a business decision. It was the right one. He was released today for the first time in 10 years. We are going to have a different quarterback. So where does that leave us with Derek Carr? Where do you think he goes? Right? Let's talk about that. In my opinion, the top spot, and we've been saying it for weeks, is Carolina. I think Carolina is quietly putting together one of the best staffs this offseason. They got Frank Reich, who's a hell of an offensive mind. I mean, he's a huge reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl a few years ago with Doug Peterson. Like his creativity, the way he used RPOs to help Carson Wentz, all of that could be absolute wonderful. I mean, it'd be wonderful for Derek Carr because that's what he did a lot of at Fresno State. He's a spread quarterback. Like that's what he does. And there's a West Coast terminology there that would help him out a lot too. Frank Reich would be perfect. They would lead on a run game. They have Xavier Knight there so far. Thanks, Larry, man. You guys, thank you so much for chiming in, man. He's always cheering me on. He's a damn good show. That's all we do here, Larry. Come on now. Come on, bro. Carolina, to me, is the top spot for Derek Carr. I've been saying that for weeks. You guys have heard it here. Like, for some reason in my mind, there's a thing with Frank Reich and Derek Carr. Now they have Jim Caldwell. He's an offensive legend. Coach Peyton Manning. Like, he's highly well respected. They have Deuce Staley as a running backs coach / assistant head coach. Amazing. That's an amazing hire. Deuce Staley's done a kick-ass job for years. I think it's shaping up to lure Carr. Truly. I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they're putting together a great staff. I'm just letting you know. Carolina has a very talented young defense that they've put a lot of assets into. I mean, for God's sakes, they have J.C. Horn and who's the other corner that they just drafted this last year. Like, their corners are stacked. They're young studs. They have a good defensive line. I mean, that defense in Carolina was not the problem last year. They held I think it was less than 20 points a game. Their defense allowed an average of less than 20 points a game. They just couldn't score more than 16. Imagine if Derek Carr's on a team like that with all the crap he's put up with over the years. I just feel like they have weapons. I think they'd be a great spot for him, especially if they continue to build. They're going to have some cap issues they'll have to figure out this offseason. I'm sure they have some contracts that they can find and restructure. I'm sure that they can restructure or structure a contract with Derek Carr where his cap hit is very minimal. He gets a ton of cash up front because they have one of the richest owners. David Tepper is one of the richest billionaires that owns an NFL team. There's so many things the Carolina Panthers could do. So I still believe that they're the top spot. Second best spot. This is where I think he'll end up, not where I think he should go. Okay, there's a difference. Okay? The Jets. I think the Jets have way too much to offer. They're an absolutely loaded team. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, I think they go after Derek Carr pretty hard. Because if you had to choose between Derek Carr and Jimmy G, you're going to take Derek Carr. I understand Jimmy G wins games, but his durability is an issue, and I think Jimmy G just really benefited from an absolutely stacked roster in San Francisco. I mean, obviously Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, stepped in, and they weren't missing a beat. As a matter of fact, they were better on offense, most efficient on offense with Brock Purdy there. San Francisco's just stacked. So Jimmy G's a good player. Don't get me wrong. For some reason, it makes me sick to my stomach, but I feel like he's going to end up a Raider somehow. He'll be on a favorable contract. I don't like it, but it is what it is. I think Derek Carr could very well end up a Jet because there's just so much there. Garrett Wilson is a stud. They have players everywhere. I think that'd be a great spot for him. Okay. The third one is the New Orleans Saints. It is what it is, man. He had 2 visits there for a reason. I think he truly likes it. And honestly, man, look at Twitter. Raider Nation is absolutely horrible about Derek Carr. But Twitter, you got stars like Cam Jordan, Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara. They're all baiting Derek Carr to come to New Orleans. On the Jets, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, they're all saying the same thing that when they were at the Pro Bowl with Derek Carr. Like, they've had conversations. They're trying to recruit this dude. Raider Nation hates this guy, but these 2 teams that are a quarterback away from contending for a Super Bowl are trying to lure him away from free agency. Like, that's absolutely crazy, the difference. It's like the players know, man. The players know something. And I'm going to tell you my opinion on what they know. The players know that the Raiders are a dog crap organization run by an absolute idiot. The last 10 years, Mark Davis is like 77 and 108 as a head coach or as an owner. It's a dog crap franchise, man. And it starts at the top. Players aren't stupid. They know that. Put Derek Carr on the Saints with that rebuilt offensive line with Mike Thomas, with Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara. Are you kidding me? A full-fledged draft selection. If you guys haven't noticed, the Saints draft really well. And they've drafted really well for years. Marcus Lattimore on the other side, corner, Cam Jordan. I mean, they have a stacked defense. Demario Davis, who's a nasty linebacker. Like, dude, Tyrann Mathieu, are you serious? Bro, that's a stacked, and it's in the, listen, Carolina and New Orleans are in the worst division in football next year. Look at their quarterbacks. There isn't one. The best one might be that Riddler guy or whatever his name is out of in Atlanta. And that's saying something because he's got potential. It doesn't mean he's good. Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. New Orleans does not have a quarterback right now. And then I had some dude in my feed trying to tell me that Jameis Winston was better than Derek Carr. What a joker, dude. If Jameis Winston was so much better than Derek Carr, why isn't New Orleans taking him out to dinner? Whining and dining him. Because nobody thinks that but that idiot that said that Jameis Winston's better than Derek Carr. It's absolutely ridiculous. Derek Carr would show up to New Orleans and they would win that division in a landslide. They'd probably win 12 games and have either the number 1 seed or number 2 seed and have a home playoff game in New Orleans for F's sake. In a dome. Away from cold weather. The more I think about it, the more I'm in love with the New Orleans Saints. But I have them at number 3 because I just don't think they have as good of a team as the New York Jets. And I get the Carolina Panthers don't have as good of a team as those two. I just see so many similarities. Frank Reich and Derek Carr apparently are very religious guys, and they like each other. They've liked each other for years. They've had a mutual respect. It wouldn't surprise me. Number 4, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, a ton of veterans that are in that win-now mode. They probably have 1 or 2 years of a Super Bowl window with Brady leaving. All of their offensive linemen will be back and healthy next year. That entire team will be back and healthy. You have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. I don't know if Leonard Fournette and those guys stay, but Ronald Jones, he was re-signed. Like the Buccaneers are loaded. Levante David, Devin White still, Carlos Davis. Like all of the Buccaneers are stacked, dude. They just don't have a quarterback right now because Brady retired. Derek Carr could show up day one. Again, nice weather, hot. I mean, it's going to be hot, but it's going to be warm weather. And he's going to be able to sling it around with some excellent weapons. He's got options, guys. Those are just 4 teams that I know are going to go after him. Who would you rather have? Derek Carr or a Kyle Trask that you've never really seen play because Brady's taken all the snaps? You're going to take Derek Carr and his upside, his talent, his big arm. It's that simple, man. Number 5, I'm saying this. It's going to sound crazy. I'm saying this because I think they have a ton of assets. I like their new head coach. I think D'Amico Ryans is a beast. And if they somehow hire Cliff Kingsbury, I think they're going to be a pretty good draw. But the Houston Texans, say what you want about the David Carr situation. The guy was done dirty by the organization. Everyone knows it. But doesn't mean David Carr still doesn't appreciate the Texans for giving him a shot. It would be absolutely poetic and amazing if Derek Carr showed up in Houston. They win that division. They go to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl in Houston. Like, what a thing for Derek Carr to do. It would be poetic. I don't see it happening necessarily, but they're a team with a lot of draft assets, a lot of cap space, and I think D'Amico Ryans is a really young and up-and-coming coach. We know the defense is going to be really good. They did Lovey dirty. I'm not going to lie. I think Lovey was given an impossible task. But the Texans could very well be a team that I'm telling you, man, if they were to get Derek Carr, they'd be dangerous. But if I were them, I'd just draft a young dude. Because you have, I think, the number 2 or number 3 overall pick. Just draft a young dude. Start over. Let D'Amico Ryans get his guy from the very start and let Cliff Kingsbury develop him and then leave in a couple years to head coach another team. That isn't run by a diva quarterback that's 5'8" and needs a Roomba to move around the field in Kyler Murray. Like, let's just be real, man. Now, the team I would like to see Derek Carr on, you guys are going to think I'm crazy. The team I would really like to see Derek Carr on is a Niner. I think if he steps in as a 49er, they win the Super Bowl next year. Because, in my opinion, he's an upgrade over Brock Purdy. I get what everybody likes about Brock, but let's be real, man. Derek Carr is better. There's just no way around it. You could give him Jimmy G's $27 million salary a year. If he takes it to go out to a really good team like the Niners, they're winning it all. Deebo Samuel, are you kidding me? Brandon Ayuk, that offensive line, which seems to be good every single year, that zone scheme, that run game is amazing. Christian McCaffrey, come on, dude. And that defense is always a top unit every year. Now, this year they were the top unit, but they're top 3 every year. Imagine Derek Carr, and that's the one I want to see him in as a Niners uniform. That'd be incredible. So that's the Derek Carr situation. Moving on to the Raiders, and we got to transition here because obviously we only have a few minutes. Raiders needs. An obvious one is quarterback. They cut him. They handled it poorly. They're not getting any assets, but you know what? They gained $29-something million in cap space. The Raiders now, I think, have about $47 million in cap space, according to Over the Cap. There's a bunch of contracts on this team that were just signed last year that could be restructured to move the Raiders into around the $60-some million range, which would be amazing. The Raiders' needs are what they are. This is what I think will happen. Okay? I think Jimmy G or Mac Jones are the quarterback for the Raiders next year. What I believe could happen, they trade for Aaron Rodgers, and we are immediately a contender again because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, so get it. He may be declining, but he's Aaron Rodgers, dude. I'll take a declining Aaron Rodgers who was still extremely, he threw for 35 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. I'll take that again on this roster. I'll do it with Darren Waller and Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. Absolutely. What I believe could happen is Aaron Rodgers. What I think, like I said, what I think is going to happen is it's going to be Jimmy G or Mac Jones. What I want the Raiders to do, period, draft a quarterback, man. Don't build your team through free agency and go after your quarterback in the first round. If you can trade up and get Stroud, do it. If you believe that Anthony Richardson out of Florida is the dude, pull the trigger at number 7. Because I would rather trade up and do away with 2 future firsts and have a rookie deal and let that guy grow under Josh McDaniels in this play calling system and with all of these weapons around. I would rather do that than have a 39-year-old quarterback show up. Again, he's Aaron Rodgers. He's a legend. But you're going to have to allocate $35 to $40 million to him. So there goes majority of your cap. You're going to have to restructure a bunch of deals. You're going to have to bargain bin once again in free agency like last year. Just cut the crap, man, and get a quarterback in the first round. Period. Don't bargain bin in the second, third, fourth round. Just go get your guy in the first round. Get it over and done with. Save Josh McDaniels' job for a couple years. Because if he doesn't do well or we don't see improvement, the guy should be gone. He should have been gone after this year. Because it was a monumental, horrible coaching. I was listening to an interview and I posted this on the Sin City Sports website or Sin City Sports Twitter page. I was listening to a Tim Brown interview where I retweeted. By the way, guys, this is the type of crap I deal with. It's absolutely hilarious. Um, I retweet a Cam Jordan thing or Sauce Gardner thing, and they delete their tweets. Like, this kind of crap just pisses me off. I don't know why people do that. Said, I firmly believe the Raiders should draft Stroud if they can make it happen. If not, I'm all in for AR-15. Anthony Richardson, dude's huge. He's built. He's a young stud. He can run. He's got a 4.4 40. You could use him a lot like you did with Stidham at the end of the season. Get him out of the pocket, man, and let him throw to some open guys. Just let it happen, and then build the defense. But one of the things I was saying earlier today was Tim Brown was talking about, and this is back to Josh McDaniels. We're focusing back on Josh McDaniels. You guys know we need a quarterback. We need offensive line, interior for sure. I think Dylan Parham steps in at center. I think Andre James is gone, and he needs to be gone. So the Raiders really need to focus on getting those two guards and then adding depth through the draft in the line, right? Defensive line, horrible. We need depth there. We need pass rushers. Our linebackers are soft. They don't tackle in space very well. Denzel Perryman needs help, and he might not even be around forever. Okay? And we need to add a DB. We have so many needs on this roster. This is why I think it's important that we just go after a young buck in the draft, first round. So that way we can allocate the rest of that $40-some million in cap space towards rebuilding a defense and then just draft young guys on offense. Like, seriously, that'd be the best way to build this team. Build the fronts through the draft, get our skill guys in free agency, period. But about Josh McDaniels. This is how crap of a job he did this year, guys. First of all, he's 17-28 as a head coach. It's an absolute joke. The guy coached underneath the greatest of all time, and he just can't seem to get it right. And this was kind of affirmed by Tim Brown. I listened to him earlier. It was on the #Talk Sport. They got like 1.2 million followers on YouTube. His words say a lot. They're very selective, but very reasonable. You can tell that Tim Brown has cautious optimism about Josh McDaniels because he wants him to succeed. He's just basically tired of seeing the Raiders not on top. But he said, and it starts at like 54 seconds into the video if you guys get a chance. He states, in the NFL, if you want to get good, you can get good if you want to get good, period. When speaking on Raiders Josh McDaniels, you'd think being around Belichick all these years, he'd have that game plan, but just doesn't seem to be working out when he's a head coach. That's damning if I've heard anything else. That means you have a Raiders legend that has doubts. And if the Raiders legend has doubts, you know he's getting information from guys inside the organization. This entire organization is dysfunctional as can be. It starts with Mark Davis and his crap bull cut, the way he's managed the team over the last 10 years. 77-108. They hired a 17-28 head coach. They're almost a match made in heaven. They're a bunch of losers, okay? But the reality is, you have a Raiders legend and probably an entire locker room, with the exception of some stars who are saying the right things during interviews, that have doubts in this guy. The guy lost 7 games this year. The team lost 7 games this year with a double-digit lead. That's coaching. That's habitual. Those are things that are not being coached in practice. I personally believe he can't be this bad. If he is, he's not going to be back next year. That's for sure. Like, he's going to be here this season, but 2024, we're going to have a new head coach again. Like the 6th one in a decade, for that matter. That's how bad it's been. And that is damning to me. I'm telling you, watch that video. # Talk Sports. Talk Sport. It's like lowercase talk. Sport is uppercase. Go watch the YouTube video. I'm not trying to necessarily give you guys or advertise for somebody else, but it was great content. Tim Brown sat down with an interviewer who is English, and I can't quite peg the name of the guy that used to play for Josh McDaniels, but he wasn't even that positive either. Like, he was just trying to say Josh McDaniels can call plays. The players need to execute. But he was also not afraid to say, I have no idea what's going on here. Things just don't seem to be working out for him, and at the end of the day, that comes down on him. That's all in coaching. He's getting skewered, man, by former players, by Raider legends. There's doubt. They want him to succeed because they want to win games, right? But the reality is Josh McDaniels just isn't a very good coach. I think he's excellent under Belichick. He's a Hall of Fame level offensive coordinator under Belichick. As a head coach, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, and it's quite obvious. I think our game plans in the first half are absolutely immaculate. I think what he does to prepare are great. In the second half, we always get beat because him and his coaching staff just can't adjust, and they can't coach up our players. It's that simple. Positive side, okay? I just crapped on him, but the reality is no matter what team, no matter what program, the second year is always the best. You always see massive improvement in the second year. The Max Crosbys, the Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrows, the offensive linemen, maybe even Jarrett Stidham if he's the guy that ends up starting. It's possible. You see a massive increase in productivity year two. And that goes for the defense too. If you get some guys in there, usually in year two, you start really seeing some serious growth. And I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping that, and this is just my opinion, I thought Derek Carr just needed another year. I know it sounds crazy, but year one of any system is going to be hard on him. Year two is where you see the strides. You saw it with Bill Musgrave. You saw it with John Gruden. Derek Carr had huge jumps in year two. I think he would have done the same thing. But now we're going to see what he can do in another team. And we're going to see what the Raiders can do with the young quarterback or whoever they're bringing in. Either way, it's sketchy. I don't trust this staff. I don't trust this organization. They don't deserve our money. But we're always going to cheer them on because we're Raider Nation for life, right? It is what it is, man. It absolutely is what it is. And there's not much we can say about it. Not much we can say about it. Again, happy trails to Derek Carr, man. I wish you nothing but the best. I hope the Raiders really get it together this offseason. I hope they're smart about the way they spend the cap. I hope they're smart about the way they pick draft picks. I thought they were smart last year. I don't like that they used a third rounder on a running back and used him 15 times all year. But that's kind of the way it is. And that's the other thing we didn't get a chance to talk about. Josh Jacobs. I still don't believe he'll be on the roster this year. Folks think I'm crazy. But this regime doesn't believe in that. We saw 2 running backs drafted last year. We'll probably see 2 more this year. Josh Jacobs could very well be franchised and traded. And that's okay. Get some assets for him. The running back position is one you can replace. But Josh has been special. He had an amazing year. It was legendary. Rushing title. You got to love it. You guys know what it is, man. This is IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Kel Henderson. Please get at me. Get at me on our Twitters, at SinCity_ISR, at Kel_Henderson, which is my personal, where I talk to all you guys. It doesn't matter if you're a hater or a fan. I'm always going to talk to you guys and give you about as real of information as I can. I'm not always right. I'm first to admit that. But we're usually spot on because we understand the business. We've studied it. We watch a lot of film. We know what's going on. Just chime in, believe in us, because I promise you this could be easily one of the fastest growing shows in Vegas sports. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Tune in next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on Spreaker Radio. And you guys know how it is. Love, peace, and air grease, folks.